Hi, I'm Allie, a test prep tutor and strategist at Geek. What do you need to know about semicolons for the ACT and SAT? Everyone seems to hate semicolons, and I get it, okay? We don't use them every day, and so they can be a little bit confusing. But honestly, for the ACT and SAT, there's not much to worry about here. Semicolons only have one rule that you really need to know for these tests. So let's take a look. Semicolons separate two complete thoughts. This is similar to how a period separates two sentences, like this. Abigail was elected as class president. And then we have a period. She was excited to make a difference. And then another period at the end of that sentence. But what about if we change the period to a semicolon? Abigail was elected as class president, semicolon. She was excited to make a difference. In this case, we're saying the exact same thing. In fact, it's literally the exact same words. All we're doing is changing this into one big sentence that has a semicolon in the middle instead of a period. And that's it. That's the rule that you need to understand for the SAT and the ACT when it comes to semicolons. Semicolons separate two complete thoughts. So your goal on the test should be to make sure that you indeed have a complete thought on both the left side of the semicolon and the right side of the semicolon. If you could treat those two things, each one, as a separate sentence, then you're good to go. It's correct. It's a good, correct use of a semicolon. If not, then it's not going to be correct on the test. But what about if a semicolon is the right choice? We can use a period. Is it the right choice to use a semicolon instead? Are there cases where you should use a semicolon or you should use a period? Yeah, there definitely are cases that in a literary sense would be better to use a semicolon or a comma conjunction or a period. But the good news is the SAT and ACT do not test this. They only test whether a semicolon is grammatically correct. They will not ask you to choose between using a period and using a semicolon if both are grammatically correct. All right, now it's time to take a look at a few examples. So for our first question, we have Brad did, Jake did not. Don't let this one trick you. This is honestly a classic example of how these tests can try to trick you. You might think, oh, this is such a short sentence, it can't possibly be a sentence. There's not enough words to make it a sentence. But actually, you only need, well, in some cases, one word to make it a sentence if it's like a command, like look. But if you're gonna have a subject and a verb, you only need two words. And so don't let that fool you. Always focus on, do you have a subject? Do you have a verb? If so, you have a complete thought. If not, you don't. That's it. Focus on those things. So in this case, we have Brad is our subject. So this is our subject. And then did is our verb. Okay, perfect. Now on the right, we have Jake is our subject and did is again our verb. So this one checks out. This works as a semicolon because we have a complete thought on the left and a complete thought on the right side. Let's move on to number 2. Alicia just doesn't understand. Alicia is our subject. Does is our verb. And this, again, could be a standalone sentence. That's another way to think about these, is if you're having trouble identifying the subject and verb, think about it. Can this stand alone as its own sentence? If you're a native English speaker, you also have an advantage here where you've heard the spoken language and read the written language for a long time. And so you may just have a sense for if it could be a standalone sentence or not. In this case, yes. On the right side, she's never been through this before. She is our subject. Now, this is where it gets a little tricky. We're not sure maybe what the verb is here. Well, it's actually broken, it's actually put into a contraction. So if we break that down and we put she has, which is what that contraction is, then we suddenly have our verb, has. Okay, so this one is good as well. Now what about number 3? The cow didn't produce the most milk. Okay, so the cow is our subject, and then did produce is our verb, our helping verb and our verb. And then on the right side, we have but she made the best milk. Okay, so we might say she is our subject, which would be true. And then made seems like a verb, so that's our verb. Are we good? Well, the weird thing about this one is we have this conjunction here, right? And, but, or, those are all your conjunctions. And typically when we use conjunctions, we're putting a comma conjunction, right? We don't typically see a semicolon conjunction. And in this case, it's not that it's necessarily wrong. It's just not a great use of a semicolon here if we're going to have a conjunction anyway. A better use of this would be to have a comma conjunction. And so what the SAT or ACT would be checking here is that you understand that this word is not necessary if we're going to use a semicolon. And they're all about simplicity. So watch out for that when you do have some tough semicolon questions. If comma but is an option, that works. Or if you can just eliminate but, we're saying the same thing with less words. The cow didn't produce the most milk. She made the best milk. So that would be a better use of a semicolon, is just to eliminate but. Okay, number 4. That new girl seems weird. So girl is our subject, and then seems is our verb. Like she's from outer space. Okay, so we might think that she is our subject. It is a noun, but we have a little bit of a strange thing going on here. It's like a bit of a phrase, right? Because we're like she's from outer space. Like she's from outer space on its own, just looking at this, could not stand as a standalone sentence. It's not a complete thought. It's more information, but it's not a complete thought. It doesn't have a standalone verb and subject. So in this case, this one is going to be wrong. Okay, we cannot use a semicolon if the right side is not a complete thought. Number 5, Miley's music is so good. I hope she makes a new album soon. Our subject is music. Our verb is. And then in the second part, I is our subject, hope is our verb. So this one's good. We have a complete thought on both sides. Number 6, I need to bring these things on vacation. Sunglasses, a hat, a jacket, and my water bottle. I is our subject. Need is our verb. And then the second part, is this a complete thought? Sunglasses, a hat, a jacket, and my water bottle? No, this is a list, right? And you may know that a colon, just not a semicolon, but a regular old colon, can introduce a list. We won't cover that in this video, but all you need to know is that if you do see a semicolon used like this, it's not correct, right? Because we've checked both sides and the right side is not a complete thought. Number 7, some people prefer Instagram, Facebook, or TikTok. However, I like simpler platforms like Twitter, which feels more anonymous. Okay, so people is our subject, prefer is our verb, and then what about this second part? I is our subject, like is our verb. Now, it may be a little bit confusing because we have this semicolon, however, and this is something that I find a lot of students learn in school when they learn semicolons. And it can make things a little bit confusing, but don't worry about these transition words here. All you need to worry about is, could this second part be a complete sentence? Yes, we can use however at the beginning of a sentence, and we could say, however, I like simpler platforms, and it would still be correct. So in this case, this one's good. Last one, I would rather not do my homework, the bane of my existence. I is our subject, would is our verb, and then the bane of my existence, nope, that one's not gonna work because it's not a complete thought. Thanks so much for joining me. If you're looking for more SAT and ACT test prep content, make sure you subscribe to our channel, and you can also find us at testgeek.com/blog.